Footage of Chinese concentration camps has emerged, and China passes a crushing national security bill for Hong Kong. The world's most populous country with around 1.4 billion people and the longest continuous history sitting at around 3,500 years. It's very hard to generalize or categorize the Chinese people for those reasons. There's a lot of them and they have a long and rich history. But it's not hard to categorize or generalize the evil Chinese government. That's what they are. Evil, disgusting, savages. And today we're going to talk about why. We're going to discuss Hong Kong, and we're going to discuss the concentration camps in which the Uyghur people are being held. In 1997, Britain handed Hong Kong over to the Chinese. They technically gave it back to them under the condition that it would remain a one country, two systems policy, meaning China would remain Maoist, communist society that we all know, and Hong Kong would remain democratic, capitalistic, enjoying free speech, things like that, you know? Now, this was supposed to last till at least 2046, but the Chinese government had different ideas. Last summer, in the summer of 2019, massive protests erupted, anti-government protests erupted across Hong Kong. Why? Well, because China tried passing a bill that would allow them to extradite residents of Hong Kong to mainland China to stand trial, sometimes behind closed doors, which we can all assume won't be fair. Now, these protests had beautiful moments, such as this guy holding an American flag as a symbol of freedom, which it is, because America is the freest society ever built by man in the history of mankind. Now, there were beautiful images, but eventually there was a lot of violence as well. This deteriorated the relationship between Hong Kong and China exponentially. Now, fast forward a year to this summer, the summer of 2020, and China passes a national security bill that basically outright crushes the freedom, sovereignty, and liberty of Hong Kong. Let's check out some of the details of this law. New law's key provisions include crimes of secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces are punishable by a maximum sentence of life in prison. Damaging public transport can be considered terrorism. Beijing will establish a new security office in Hong Kong with its own law enforcement personnel, neither of which would come under the local authorities' jurisdiction, meaning they have complete authority to do whatever the fuck they want. The office can send some cases to be tried in mainland China. Hong Kong's chief executive will have the power to appoint judges to hear national security cases. This is the Beijing appointed chief executive. And my personal favorite, the law will also apply to non-permanent residents and people from outside Hong Kong who are not permanent residents of Hong Kong, meaning it apply to you and me if we decide to visit Hong Kong. This is crushing for Hong Kong. No more liberty, all the foreign investments are probably going to pull out, and for those who don't know, Hong Kong is basically a Western city. It's a capitalist democratic society. They have free speech, they have investment, foreign investment, but not no more. Not no more. But why don't we move on to the most evil part of the Chinese regime? The concentration camps. Re-education camps. China is systematically rounding up the Uyghur population, estimated to be between 2 and 3 million people, and putting them in concentration camps. What they're doing to them is unconscionable. They're being forced to denounce their religion, denounce their language, denounce their culture. They have to speak Chinese 24/7. Sometimes they're forced to dance while singing in Chinese praises to Xi Jinping. Now, this may sound like North Korea to you, huh? But it's not. It's China. I guess same but different, huh? These people are being The Uyghurs are being forced to undergo forced sterilization, forced abortions, and in some cases, organ harvestation. The ones that are lucky are sent to labor camps, where they make products that probably you and I use. Recently, a Chinese hero was able to get drone footage of some of the Uyghur people being transported. tied, bound, shaved, being transported in trains. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Because it does to me. Never again, they said. And the Chinese ambassador has the audacity to go on TV and try to explain it away.
I cannot see, this video. This is not the first time you show me. I still remember last year you showed me what is happening in Xinjiang.
In Xinjiang, exactly.
But let me tell you this. Xinjiang, have you been to Xinjiang yourself?
No, I never have.
You know, Xinjiang is regarded as the most beautiful place in Xinjiang. There's a Chinese saying, you do not know how big China is.
Ambassador, that is not beautiful coverage, however, is it?
You know, Xinjiang, that is exactly what I'm going to tell you.
Oh, Xinjiang is the most beautiful city. Fuck off, man. So what can the world do? Do we isolate China? Do a trade embargo? Make them starve to death, and so they can the Chinese people could uprise and take out the government? If that doesn't work, what do? Do you go to war? To invade a country of 1.4 billion people to save 2 million? I think so. But I don't know. What do you think? Comment down below. And if there's one thing you can take from this video, is this.
Should step in. Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole.
Down with China. Like, comment, subscribe. Ginger out.